Leicester 3, Palace 0. I'm joined by James here. Such a disappointing defeat for Palace. Had nothing
Yeah,
going forward and defensively, very poor goals to concede. It,
yeah,
it was just unacceptable. Personally, that's how I see that's how
yeah.
I saw the game. I don't know what you thought about it.
No, look, I completely agree. The whole performance was unacceptable. The back four, like, I can understand bringing Saka in. He is essentially, I think he's one of our highest earners behind Zaha, and we paid 30 mil for him. He's got all the attributes to be a brilliant defender, but you can't legislate for the complete lack of footballing brain that he has. To try and do that when you've got Harvey Barnes, who's like lightning coming at you anyway, and then Vardy in the box, and we all knew Vardy was going to get his 100th goal against us. It was inevitable. But yeah, you just can't legislate for it, and it's so disappointing to watch the performances today and at home to Burnley midweek. Just nothing, absolutely nothing offering going forward. At the back, we seem to have lost all the structure that we had that would then allow players like Wolf, Jordan, Benteke to some extent to actually get the ball, move it forward, and have the rest of the midfield come in. Macca still looks quality. He's the only shining light for the team at the moment, in my opinion.
So you mentioned the structure. What is it then? Is it the tactics or is it just after the restart? We had a brilliant game against Bournemouth,
Yeah,
and Bournemouth do seem like they're down. So we have to
yeah,
also point
yeah,
that out as well. They're not the greatest side, but of course Liverpool. No one expected to do anything against them. They're
yeah.
the champions. Burnley game and this game, as you mentioned, the structure isn't there. And is that down to the
Mm.
tactics or is it just down to the players just saying, "What are we playing for?"
I don't know. To be fair, I think the Liverpool game, as much as, like you said, and quite rightly, we weren't expecting anything from the game. We weren't. But I think that game did definitely affect a lot of our players because we got absolutely ruined by them. Like, Opta obviously got the stat wrong that we didn't have a single touch in their box. But even so, we had one touch in their box throughout the whole 90 minutes. Which is just ridiculous. But then you look at the last two games, and Roy bases all of his teams on being so well structured as like the four, as it used to be at Fulham, it was sort of a flat 4-4-2, but with us it's now sort of 4-3-3/4-5-1, whichever way you want to look at it. And realistically it's 4-5-1 because Zaha spends more of his time outside our box, just outside our box, than just outside their box. And I mentioned it to you sort of just briefly earlier, but it seems to have happened since. Well, I've noticed it sort of progressively happening since Stephen Reid left, and I don't know. It's probably got absolutely nothing to do with it, but Stephen Reid seemed to be the one on the touchline, really egging the players forward, whereas you've got Ray and Roy that seem to be so concerned about keeping everybody in that flat 4-5-1.
Exactly. Stephen Reid, lots of people talked about it when he did leave, how big of a miss he was going to be, and he is proven out to be like that. You mentioned Zaha. Don't know what's happening with him. This is how I see it. If he's not fit, why is he playing? He must be fit to a certain degree. And if he is, what is going wrong with him?
Yeah,
It seems like he's not really taking on. In the second half, I thought he done better than in the first half. He was taking on a couple of players, but it's not Wilfried Zaha. It's just not what we're used to seeing from him. And I don't know what exactly has gone wrong for him because we haven't heard, of course, in the Liverpool game, he was injured. But after that, we haven't heard anything about him being injured or him.
No.
I don't know.
But just before the Burnley game, I think the Burnley game was on Tuesday, wasn't it? And then on the Sunday, I think I saw Roy say something about Zaha hasn't been training, but we're hoping that he will be fit for the game. So if he hadn't trained, he probably wasn't fully fit for that one, but he still played and he was pretty poor in that game, let's be fair. But then he's had, 4 days of a recovery day and then 2 or 3 days of training leading up to today. And there was nothing. It's like he's been so drilled by Roy to help Patrick Van Aanholt out at the back that he just seems to have lost all of that spark and want to go forward and beat people. Like any time I think of Zaha, one of the first clips that go through my head is when we beat Watford at home, and he put it on a plate for James McCarthy to score the winner in injury time. But I haven't seen him do that to a defender or to a number of defenders in months. Obviously, take lockdown out of it, but months of the season that was going on. But I haven't really seen it all season, and it just doesn't seem to be there. And has his head been turned? Probably, but we all know that he wanted to leave 2 or 3 times over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. But he signed the new deal. If he wants to progress his career, he needs to put his effort in with us to get that move, because at the moment he wouldn't warrant it.
Yeah, I don't think if I was a club, I'll be brutally honest, I don't think I would pay that much for Wilf right now. How much we're saying, 60 million, because you look at his performances and you just look at his goals and assists. It doesn't warrant a 60 million pound move. Leroy Sané, he just went for 50 million pound, and you're asking Wilf 60 million from Wilf. So yeah, it's not the greatest valuation from club, but of course he is valued that much to Palace. It also depends on that. But now let's just talk about the goals. First goal from Vicente Gaeta, bit Hennessy-esque. We talked about Hennessy.
I can't be that harsh to him. Honestly, I can't be that harsh. It was a mistake. He should have come out and absolutely clattered everybody. Yeah. But he didn't, and it was a mistake. It was a pretty good finish as well, though, to be fair. But that was definitely a mistake, and I don't even want to talk about Sacco's. It was just shocking.
What? Let's talk a bit about it. Let's just mention it at least. You said it was shocking. We've seen this with Sacco in the past. He's not the type of player just to go out there and have no mistakes. He has mistakes in his game, and that's why Liverpool sold him. That's why he wasn't at Liverpool, because of the type of player he is. But at Palace, he seems like he's rumoured to be leaving the club soon. And it wasn't the greatest. Well, no mistake is great, but it wasn't the most. It was such a weird mistake. I don't know how to word it. What did you think about his performance and maybe his future at the club? Do you see? I
can't see him having a future at the club. If these rumours are pretty big rumours as well, they're not just sort of once or twice being mentioned. They are constantly being mentioned, and you're seeing it in the French press in particular. That people are like retweeting and translating for me, which is helpful. But you're seeing a lot of him. I think he's linked to like Lille and Nice and a fair few other French clubs. I don't think there's a need for him to be at Palace. The thing is, though, is he has got all the actual ability to be a very, very, very good centre half, but he has no footballing brain, like just none at all. Why would you try and do a Cruyff turn when you're 1-0 down? You're chasing the game, and up until that second goal, for about 10-15 minutes before that, we were really putting the pressure on them. Putting the pressure on Leicester. We still didn't have a shot on target barring Cahill's, but we were at least putting pressure on them and moving forward. But then he goes and does that, and you're just handing it to Harvey Barnes to lay it on to Jamie Vardy on a big silver platter. It's just completely unacceptable.
Let's talk about the substitution. So we're 1-0 down. Riedewald, he comes off for Kouyaté, he comes on for Riedewald, and then James McCarthy, he comes on for James McArthur. Now, it's not the most encouraging subs when you're 1-0 down. I just didn't understand the reason for them. Maybe if you're looking ahead to the Chelsea game, but still, there's Max Meyer on the bench, there's Pierrick on the bench, there's Andros Townsend on the bench. You come on after, but these players could have came on, or for Andros' case, could have came on a bit earlier. I personally didn't understand the substitution. Maybe you see it differently.
I completely agree with you. Like, I just don't get it, and that's always been something that I've had a bit of an issue with Roy about. Is his substitutions. Like right at the beginning of the season, he barely made a substitution, like at all. Now that he's got the ability to use 5, he's still leaving it until 65, 70 minutes when we have the drinks break to actually make any substitutions. And when he does, he's just swapping one player that sits in that hole, like Gyro was, for Kouyaté, who's going to sit in that hole. I really didn't understand taking James McArthur off for James McCarthy. That is never going to be easy to do. But that just made no sense, because at least James McArthur goes forward and he tries to drive the team forward. James McCarthy is much more of a deep-lying player. So you end up with Luca, Kouyaté, and McCarthy on the pitch. So you've got 3 holding midfielders and you're chasing a game. And it's not as if it's not as if Wilf and Ayew are playing with all the freedom that they want to basically sit on the fullbacks or wing-backs, as they converted it to at half-time. They're not playing with any freedom. They're still mostly outside our box rather than anywhere near theirs.
Yeah. The one positive maybe is Tyrick Mitchell. He came on in the game, and that was surprising. I still didn't, even though we were 3-0 down, I still didn't expect him to come on because of Roy not really trusting the youngsters. But he came on. He didn't really have much to do, but hopefully, how I see it is, now that European football it seems very, very unlikely. I mean, it's going to be hard even after the Bournemouth win. Hopefully, we see a bit more of Mitchell. I don't know if you're positive like me, obviously Mitchell.
Yeah.
But it'll be good. It'll be good to see youngsters come on and have a go, because at the end of the day, we need another left back. And it might be, we might save at least 10 million or 10 to 15 million if we have a player like Mitchell, who might even be on the same level with Patrick Van Aanholt. There's no need to go out and get a left back if we already have one. So it's a good chance for him to show himself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like Mitchell, I think his contract's up, and he's being linked with Spurs at the moment as well, because he's not getting any game time with us. And if that is the case, Roy needs to sort of. It's a bit egotistical of him. He just doesn't trust the youngsters, but there's no reason not to. You look at players like the fullbacks that we've had, like Klein, go back that far, go to Klein, go to Wan-Bissaka. When they've come in, they have come in and just cemented that place as their own after one game. We have a very good academy. We all know that, although at the moment, the stats show that we aren't putting anybody through. Like Brandon Pierrick, when he played against Norwich, when he came on for sort of half hour against Norwich, he looked really, really good. Like really, really good. Since then, you've barely seen him. I just as you said, with no European football, like let's be realistic, it was always a bit of a pie in the sky hope for Crystal Palace to get into Europe anyway. Yeah. But there was a chance of it. But now that we realistically, it's pretty much impossible. Give them an opportunity to come out and play their way. But I just can't see how Roy would ever let that happen.
Finally, if you had to pick one player to be your man of the match, who would it be?
Probably Cahill. I don't think he was at fault for anything really, and I was a bit sceptical of his signing at the beginning of the season, I won't lie, but he has been brilliant. And to be fair, barring the chance that he missed, which was the only shot on target, and he should have scored it, let's be fair. But other than that, he didn't really do anything wrong, but then he didn't do anything exceptional either. But there was not one player on the pitch in a Palace shirt that did anything exceptional.
Yeah. 100%. It was a disappointing defeat. As always, leave down your comments down below. Let us know what you think of the game. And until next time, after Palace.